All right. We are live Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific time. This is Campfire number 11 with Nasir Bush. Um, and I'm extremely happy to have you on the show. Nasir and I go way back. I was checking your LinkedIn profile before the show, and it made me realize that you and I actually got to know one another in 2018, so 4 years ago already.
Yeah.
So we'll go into the details as to why. For those of you who are new to the show, we are streaming live every Friday on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. We have it's pretty much interview style with either a student or an instructor. And Nasir actually is, interestingly enough, you've had both experiences.
Yeah.
And you can ask also your questions. That's the thing. You can ask questions on the chat. We'll look at it. Nasir and I will answer the chat. You can also join live. You can follow the link. Let me actually put it up. This link is here. If you follow that link, and even if you are on your phone, you can switch on your camera, your mic, and you can just join Nasir and I and have a conversation, ask your questions. I mean, ideally, you have a question or an observation. Why not? And yeah, that's how we do it. So again, very much welcome, Nasir.
Thank you
Really
for having me.
delighted to have you on the show. And I'd love if you could introduce yourself. I mean, where are you from? Where are you calling from? Maybe a little bit of where you're working now. Don't say
Mhm.
too much because we're going to go back, way back to the beginning of times, I guess. So, but go for it. Please introduce
Cool.
yourself.
I'm Nasser Bush. I'm living in Spokane, Washington. That's where I was born and pretty much raised. Come from a military family, travel all around. But this is where I call home. Um, some stuff I'll wait till we get into it, like where I work and how that story all came about. But um, yeah, I live in Spokane. Been a developer for, I mean, really since about 2018,
Yeah.
full time. Before that, just kind of answering phones, and we'll discuss that. But
Yeah.
yeah, pretty basic life.
So, well, very inspiring life, I will say. So I want to start with maybe it's my personal story, but it really connects to yours, and
Yeah,
that's when when I met you, I sensed that there was something special about you, really
cool.
honestly. And I remember I was at the airport in Seattle on a Friday night. It was 10 p.m. and I was going to Spokane. I was going to actually meet the classroom over there. And I don't remember exactly why I had to go. I mean, I've been to Spokane, a few times, but I think I pretty much, I don't know, maybe we didn't have actually an instructor and I had to fill in or something because I was your instructor, right? For Saturday workshop over there.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just one actually. Yeah.
Yeah, just one, right? I kind of
Yep.
remember that. And so you were there. There were other students.
Yep.
And I remember we really connected. I mean, you told me about what you were doing, what you were passionate about, and I remember we were in that co-working space, really
Yeah.
nice place.
Yep.
And then we walked down, and then you get to your car, and I see your car, and I'm like, I want that car. Like I was like, why? I mean, how come you have such a nice car? So I want to ask you first and foremost, what was the car in question? Do you still have it? Um, and how passionate are you about car? Because I see on your profile you actually have a car on your. I don't know if it's on Facebook or somewhere else, but yeah, it seems to be something that you kind of like, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love cars. It's a hobby of my brother and I. Been in a car since we were young. The car
Yeah,
that you're actually talking about was a Chrysler 300 that I had quite some time ago. Um, and I
a
love
good
that car.
muscle
Actually,
car, huh?
yeah, yeah, I had two of them actually. Absolutely love the car. But the other thing is, my brother and I, we have a Honda S2000 that we've built up,
Oh
and
wow.
we have recently. My brother had a professional driver racing it, so we're really into cars, tuning
Oh, I
cars,
can see that.
racing
It
them.
was pristine. It was
Yeah,
pristine, custom. You could tell that wasn't the retail stock car. Yeah,
yeah,
you could see the passion straight away.
yeah,
Um, so let's talk about that time in your life, right? So
absolutely.
2018, before the pandemic, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, what were you doing at that moment in time, and what brought you to wanting to learn to code? And then maybe also why New Camp when you thought of it?
Yeah, great question. So originally, what was happening was, I was working as actually I was answering phones. I was running a help desk for a local company,
Yeah.
and that job went away. And they said, "Hey, we know you're currently at Western Governors University, just starting a software development degree. Do you want to become a developer?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I want to do. Get some training on the job." Well, it just so happens like the next day was trial by fire, and they're like, "Hey, we're building a website and we're using Bootstrap and a lot of other things." And I was like, "Oh wow, I'm drowning here." Uh, and so I said, "You know what? Let me try to up my skills as quickly as possible." Went on Facebook, went on a few other places, was just Googling boot camps, and seen an ad for New Camp. It's like, "Oh, let me look into this." Started reading some more, and the price was affordable. And at the time, there wasn't an established New Camp presence in Spokane.
Mm.
I was part of your first cohort here in
That
Spokane.
was the very first
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Spokane.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And so I signed up, and that's when we originally met. I started with the fundamentals course. I went through the entire full stack course. But yeah, really, I got connected with New Camp because I was trying to up my skills like in an immediate fashion.
I remember that now. I remember you were really actually kind of in a lucky spot of kind of knowing if you were able to upskill, the job was there, just waiting
Yeah,
for you and for you to apply those skills. So you had a really good level of urgency, right,
yeah,
to make it happen.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was getting thrown into a full website build. Um, was pretty daunting at first, right? And I hadn't used technologies like Bootstrap at
Yeah.
first. I was just still kind of basic HTML, CSS, and minimal JavaScript. And I could bang my head around. What I'll say, I was good enough to be dangerous at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but I needed to get some quick skills, and New Camp was perfect. Met with you and a few other people, and loved it. It was a
Yeah.
great experience.
Yeah. You fell in love with code.
Yeah,
So how were you learning before? You said you were kind of familiar with HTML, CSS, a little bit JavaScript. Where
yeah.
did you how did you learn that before joining NewCamp then?
Pretty much 100% self-taught.
Yeah.
I'm kind of old, so I read books, and I would just read books, CSS books and JavaScript books, and practice and try to do stuff in the
Yeah.
console and break things and try to figure out how to fix them. So it was 100% self-taught in the very beginning.
Oh, but self-taught with books. And there's a
Yeah,
ton of really great books.
yeah,
I know one that people always talk about, and I'm going to forget the name now. It's the Eloquent JavaScript.
yep,
A lot of people are kind of saying, hey, this book, and there's a really strong also HTML and CSS book. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, there's
yeah,
there's a few kind of very important and critical books to learn to code. So
yeah.
no online learning, no like free code camp or all the the stuff that usually actually you hear people
No, not
use.
at first. It was
Oh
all
wow,
book learning. Yeah, I went through like the Missing Manual series, and
yeah.
then like CSS, the Missing Manual, and a few of those, and then Eloquent JavaScript. I actually have the latest version of it now. Love
Oh, you
that
do?
book. Great book. I recommend it to all my students. It is an awesome book for understanding fundamentals. Another series was it's more of a recent series, but I really love it. It's You Don't Know JS by Kyle
Mhm.
Simpson. Really, really great series as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So I remember now. I remember you really wanting to go very deep in Bootstrap and actually
Mhm.
applying Bootstrap
Yeah,
immediately on your project.
yeah,
You had that opportunity to really apply it to something real.
yeah.
Um, I also remember that not only did you start New Camp, but I think you enrolled in computer science at the same time. Is
Yep.
that correct?
So yeah,
Can you tell us a
absolutely.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So um, around the same time, 2017, I started a software development degree at Western Governors University,
Yeah.
and I'm just about finished with that. I mean, just nearly done.
Oh,
Uh,
just now?
yeah, yeah, I'm in my last class now of that degree.
Or 4 years
Um,
later? Wow.
yeah, yeah. So I started that at the same time, but the problem was like with a lot of four-year universities,
Mhm.
a lot of the material that was being taught was outdated or not really relevant at all to
Mhm.
web development in general, right? They do a lot of CS stuff. So I really wanted. I love web development, and actually, it was reading about web development that really gave me a love for it. And then once I started getting into it, I really wanted to build websites, and I come from kind of a little bit of a graphic design background.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I wanted to apply that to building websites. And like I said, just searching around, New Camp came up,
Yeah.
and it was perfect.
Yeah. And now you probably so well before we get into it, I think you want to say something.
Yeah, my parents, my mom.
Hi, pleased to meet you. Um, so what I mean, there's value in learning the fundamentals of computer science.
Yeah.
And how would you how would you describe your knowledge of computer science, learned academically at, the university? How does that complement, or maybe not, but how do you explain the differences between coding bootcamp and computer science? And I guess, how do you see yourself using those learnings, and how do they help you on your day job, let's say?
That's a great question. I've used. It's funny when I'm teaching. When I go into computer science mode, I'll let the students know. Okay, we're going to go into computer science real quick.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, and the way I would say it relates to web development is just understanding how software works, how
Yeah.
memory works on a computer, how the CPU works, and things like this. Because a lot of times when you're building websites, a lot of web developers don't make that connection. They just
Mhm.
they build pretty things on screen. But when you really start getting into understanding how to optimize applications and things like that, and how they interact with desktop, then it's good to know. It's good to have a general understanding of computer science. The one thing I would say is, I have a lot of students who ask me. Actually, I just met with a previous student in New Camp who asked me, should I go for a 4-year degree? And I'm a firm believer that everything that you do as a web developer, you can do 100% self-taught. And actually, the best web developers I've ever met are 100% self-taught. The benefit
Huh.
of having that CS degree is for further advancements after you've already got the job, right? If you want to
Mhm.
make that move into management, let's say, then having that degree so that you can move into getting an MBA or something like that, that's the caveat. That's the good thing about having that
Yeah.
degree. However, the most capable devs I have ever met never entered a college.
Yeah. They have the grit to kind of learn on their own, and
Yeah,
and they've practiced enough to, be efficient from day
yeah.
one, I guess.
And even like there's a number of students I've had through New Camp who currently work in the field, and they're killing it. They are, boot camp taught, self-taught, and they integrate within, experienced teams very, very well.
So I have to make a pause because we're moving from your student and learner experience to
Yeah.
your instructor experience, and I have to preface that with, you are one of the best instructor we've had, and you've created such an amount of respect and enjoyment with your students. I mean, it's visible right now. Actually, you
Yeah.
see them, and you've mentioned a few times, right? That you
Yeah.
stay in touch, you really nurture those relationships. Um, so I mean, Ahmed is saying
Yeah.
hi,
Yeah. Those are all my students.
Burke is saying hi, Natalia is saying hi,
Yep. P.
um,
Pia.
yeah, Blackstone as well. I mean,
Yep.
you are there for them,
Mhm.
and today they are here for you as well.
Absolutely.
And I want to pull a few stats, because I don't know if you have those stats in mind, but I want to share that with the audience. I just looked
Cool.
at it. So, do you know your average rating?
No, I don't.
Okay, it's 4.77, which is
Wow.
impressive. But what's really impressive is actually the number of students you've had and how much you've taught. So, do you know how many ratings, like unique ratings, you've actually got from students?
No, I haven't checked it.
And we should probably we should be doing something. You've just broke the 1,000 number of ratings. You've had over
Wow.
1,000 ratings. Uh, do you know how many times you've taught React?
Oh, geez. I I want to say React specifically, maybe 20 times.
Oh, you're very close. 19, which may
Wow.
include React that you're going to teach soon.
Yeah.
You've taught React 19 times with us,
Wow.
and
Wow.
and what I've really found amazing is you've always you've always approached it with a very fresh and fresh mind,
Yeah,
uh, and really giving always the same level of support and passion to your students, even after that many times. So that's really impressive. And I mean, we couldn't be luckier, to be honest with you,
I appreciate it.
to have you at New Camp.
Yeah, I love teaching. It's my favorite thing that I do. Above coding, above anything else, I love teaching.
So tell us a little bit about that. What does it bring to you? What does it mean for you to teach others?
Oh, geez, that's an emotional question. Um, for me, teaching others is giving them what I didn't have as a kid, right? I didn't come from a tech background. My father was in the military, uh, and bless his soul, he can't figure out how to turn on his iPhone to save his life. So I don't come from a technical background, right? And I went to schools where a lot of the time I was the kid that they pushed in the back. I had glasses I couldn't see, so a lot of my teachers kind of wrote me off for a lot of reasons. And what I love about teaching is you know seeing the light click for students
Yeah.
and really working with them. Especially one of the things I really love about teaching for New Camp is the price point of New Camp opens up uh, this world of dev for a lot of people who would never have access to it. A lot of minorities, a lot of people who come from very similar backgrounds like I do. And when I'm sitting with a student, I mean, I can give you an anecdote. I was teaching a student React, and in week one, she was struggling to figure out props and state. And I kept
Mhm.
telling her, "Hey, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it." And then in week five, in the middle of the class, she just blurted out based on something I said, "I finally understand props and state," and that's why I teach, right?
Yeah.
Uh, because those moments are the most rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By far. That's
absolutely,
awesome. Um, and again, there's many more people really thanking you online.
awesome.
So okay, let's go back. We'll get back. We'll go back to the teaching part,
Yeah.
and actually we'll also talk about your first job, your second job. But let's go back to you actually as a student. You had a job.
Mhm.
You had New Camp. Um, how did you manage it? And you had actually, you also enrolled in a computer science degree. So
Yeah,
I remember you. I mean, you had a ton on your plate.
yeah,
And if you want to
yeah,
talk about your family situation, I can't remember.
yeah.
But how did you manage all that, and what did it look like for you to put
That's
the investment to actually make it? What
yeah.
did it? Yeah, share with
So
us.
it's been and continues to be a long journey, right? I am, and this hasn't changed. I teach for New Camp back to back to back. I have never taken 1 week off of teaching New Camp. Every time Irene can tell you, Irene Holder, she can tell you, I'm always writing her saying, "Hey, load me up with more classes." On top of that, I'm a full time student, and I plan to go for an MBA after this. I'm a full time student. I work full time and have full time family, right? Uh, and the way I guess the way I manage it is I'm just focused. Like I tell my students in every class, and this is an homage to an individual named Nipsey Hussle who had this. He coined this phrase saying that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right?
Mhm.
It's a marathon, and you have to put in the work, right? You look at the finish line, and that's where I'm going, and you keep doing this every day. So generally my days are from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 or 11 at night in front of a screen coding every day. I make time for family. But the reality of it is I love this. This is
Yeah.
I have fun at doing this. So it's really, while it's stressful at times, and there's a lot of sacrifice being self-taught, you just have to make that sacrifice because the end goal is there.
Mhm.
Um, it's there are days like every Saturday I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, even though I've taught React 19 times. Every Saturday I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, preparing, getting ready, trying to be ready for things that students are going to say. Um, it's important to have a good work-life balance. At the same time, when you look at some of the most smart people in the world, the most successful people in the world, uh, they're driven, right?
Mhm.
Um, and a good friend of mine, a long time ago, we had this saying: "We have no time for sleep." Right? We're grinding. This is what we do. So for me, it's just, this is how I live, right? Um, and I think my family and those who are around me and know me appreciate uh, it's a struggle, but it's a good journey.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a ton of reward along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's brilliant. So you're extremely driven. But people listening to you, listening how your passion for teaching, your compassion, the fact that you've made it, cool thing that you got it all and you had no stress. But I know of one thing, and I want to ask you about that because before teaching React, you started to teach Bootstrap,
Yep.
and I remember we had a conversation at some point where you were like, oh, I think I challenged you. I'd say, hey, Nasir, it's the time now. You need to teach React.
Yeah, yeah,
But you didn't feel kind of ready at the time, or like, I don't know if I can do it.
yeah.
Can you tell us? Because I mean, there's a lot of people, everybody talks about the imposter syndrome.
Yep.
When do you know that you're ready? And how did you know that you could actually teach React?
So that's great. First, let me say, you know, I don't want to portray it like it's not stressful. It's extremely stressful,
Yeah.
right? Every day on this journey has been stressful. Uh, but knowing that the reward is worth it is what kind of mitigates that stress. When you came to me, first of all, even when you first asked me to teach, I was super nervous, right? Because I actually suffer from pretty severe imposter syndrome to this day, right?
Yeah.
Earlier today, I was suffering from, I was struggling to do something, and it was imposter syndrome started to kick in. When you came to me and asked me to teach, even the bootstrap class, I was nervous about it, right? But um, I didn't really get super nervous and stressed until you asked me to teach React, right?
Yeah.
Because Bootstrap is one thing, React is a whole different beast in of
Yeah.
itself. Um, and I struggled. I weighed. I don't know if I'm ready. Self doubt kicked in, but I at the same time I said, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try it and go from there. And it's worked out well. Every class is a challenge,
Hmm.
but it's worth it for sure.
Yeah. So, would you say that teaching has helped reinforce concepts for you? And do you have maybe examples of that? I mean, how is teaching connected to learning? How
Oh,
did you
absolutely.
experience that?
For me, it is a match made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Um, you don't really know if you understand something or even where you're challenged or your gaps lie until you start trying to teach it to other people,
Yeah.
right? And there are times where in teaching, I see the faces of my students and I'm like, okay, I got that glazed over look. They have no idea what the heck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let me try to approach this again, right? Again, and that's why I'm up every Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning reviewing and making sure my understanding is um, is correct, right? The other thing is if I can explain it to a non-technical person, right?
Yeah.
Because we get a lot of students that they're super technical, they're savvy, they understand that code, and then we get students who they just surf the web and they don't know how to do anything as far as coding. You have to
Mhm.
explain it to them, right? And the only way you can break things down in their simplest terms is if you really understand it well. If you
Yeah.
don't understand it well, you talk really technically, you speak really technically, and you can see right off the bat, oh, they're not understanding, right? So it is a challenge every day to make sure, do I understand this? Let me
Mhm.
try to explain it differently, right? And I've had students challenge me.
Yeah.
Um, and which is great. I tell my students all the time, hey, I don't have every answer, but we're nothing but a Google search away from figuring it out together.
That's awesome. Um, so let's talk about um, so you graduated from New Camp. You had that job kind of waiting for you to graduate. Like
Mhm.
hey, that's the day you graduate, kind of you get that new job. Can you
Yep.
can you share with us that journey from graduation and how you actually made that transition and what happened? I mean, emotionally, what happened in your life? Like, did it change anything? Like,
Oh,
what was it
yeah,
about?
absolutely. Um, it did change a lot of things, right? It changed my perception of self,
Mhm.
right? Having graduated new camp and then actually getting into the job and seeing that I can do the job. There are daily struggles, but I can do the job. It validated. a lot of what other people had told me, and a lot of the things that I was trying to prove to myself. So that was a huge morale booster. Um, the other thing is, a lot of the people I work with and around for the last several years have been people who come from technical backgrounds. They grew up coding, right?
Yeah.
Some of my coworkers, they were coding when they were 8 9 years old, right? And for me, I literally just started this journey, uh, and to be able to fit in and have those discussions, it is a great feeling.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's I can't really describe the feeling to get in and work with people that you admire and fit in well,
Yeah.
right? Because there is some self doubt when you go in. You're like, I don't know, I took the boot camp, but do I really know it? And then to
Mhm.
get your first task assigned to you, and you're like, I know how to do this. And then
Yeah.
to accomplish that task and feel like, wow, I'm a programmer. I build websites. Like, I'm gonna build a matrix next, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great
So
feeling.
let's talk about that particular transition. So you were, and I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile. You
Mhm,
were application support
mhm.
in that company,
Yep.
and they kind of offered you to, get into the development world.
Yeah.
Do you think it's common? Like when you think about that path in
Mhm.
the same company, going from support, to a developer position, how do you think it's common? Do you think that's something that people are trying to get into the industry should be on the lookout? Do you think it happens often? Have you seen other students do the same?
Yeah. So, do I think it's possible? Absolutely. I think it's easier to move within a company once you're in the company than it is to try to break that door down, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you start answering phones, literally that's what I did. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and answered phones for people who didn't know how to use an app, and I would have to explain to them how to use the app, and that's what I did. And uh, I kept telling them, hey, I really would like to be a developer. I'm going to school for this. I'm interested in this. I would ask the developers questions. Um, and I just put that bug in people's ear until,
Mhm.
that job was going away. We were no longer going to offer support for the app. And they said, hey, uh, you want to be a developer? We know that's what you want to do. You've told us. So we're going to offer it to you, right? Um,
That's
if I
awesome.
didn't if I didn't speak up for myself and keep saying, I really want that, then it probably wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah.
a lot of times when people are trying to find jobs, I see a lot of students who get frustrated, or a lot of people in general who get frustrated because they're applying for positions and they're not getting positions, right? And sometimes we have to sacrifice and go for a lesser position to get in the door, right?
Yeah.
And then move up within that particular company, or just elevate your title so that you can make moves in other places.
Because that company, and I don't know if you want to name the company or not, but that
Yeah,
company was a tech company.
yeah,
So you
absolutely.
were getting into the small door, I will say, the back
Yeah.
door of that tech company doing phone support.
Mhm.
But then you created relationships,
Yeah.
you created a network, and the company was big enough, I guess, to kind of be able to offer you that kind of position.
Yeah, absolutely. So you used a key word, and this is one of the things that uh, I think New Camp offers a tremendous benefit to students is network. That keyword
Yeah.
network, right? Um, I networked within the company and just kept talking to people, kept putting that bug out there, asking
Yeah.
questions. Hey, can I look over your shoulder and watch what you're doing? And uh, that showed people that not only am I interested, I'm passionate, and I really want to do this. Right. So instead of having to look outside the company, they could look right in within the company and say, hey, we got a position to fill, and we can move Nasser over here. And that's what they did. Um, eh, New Camp is a great example of that as well. I've had students reach out to other instructors or just be constantly talking within New Camp,
Yeah.
and be offered positions via word of mouth. Hey, I know so and so who's in your area, and they're a really good developer. They graduated New Camp, and guess what? They're working in the field. So networking is huge within this industry.
Yeah. And what people don't realize sometimes is we are all surrounded by people who want to help one another.
Yeah.
And we ourselves often want to help one another, right? Another
Yeah.
person. And it's kind of a capital that is there to spend. And the people who want to help other people are going to spend that capital on people seeking that help.
Yeah.
And so if you're not vocal about how you want to be helped, and it's you have to do it in a constructive way, right? I mean, you can't expect someone to give you if you don't give back. And giving back is just showing your passion, showing your
Yeah.
interest.
Yep.
I think you said it, asking questions, just showing interest,
Yeah.
genuine interest.
Yep.
You're going to get some of that capital. People are going to spend their energy wanting to help you
Yeah.
because that's how we are, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the best of the
Absolutely.
humanity is that.
Yeah. I mean, another example is even so when I first was in New Camp, 2018, this is pre-COVID, so we were in person,
Yeah.
and I kept in touch with my instructors, right? I was always
Yeah.
writing
Oh
Evan
yeah, yeah.
Daly
Let's
and
talk
Brent.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I kept in touch with them and would always bug them. And at the time, we were having these UI UX meetups here in Spokane that were run by one of the instructors, Brent Snyder, and I went to them and I just kept going. I didn't know anybody at first, and I'm kind of an introvert, so I would just go there and sit there and not say a word. But then as I started showing my face more and more, people
Yeah.
would see me and hey, that's Nasser, and we'd talk, and it just that in itself opens up doors.
What is Brent doing those days? I miss Brent. He used to
Ah,
teach with us as well, and
yeah,
I think I don't think he's teaching anymore with us. But I mean, if you see him still, it's just say that he's welcome back.
absolutely. I talked to him today.
It's such a great person as well.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, all my
Evan as
instructors were
well.
super awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, I
all of
mean,
them.
the group in Spokane was just amazing.
Yeah.
Evan as well, and I know you're working with Evan in the same company now.
Yeah, he's moved on. He's moved on from the
Oh,
company. He was a team lead. Now he's moved on somewhere else as another team lead. So he's doing
is he
really
still in
well.
Spokane? I know he was
Yeah,
kind of wondering. Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
he's still in Spokane. Yeah,
okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean that group was. I mean, Spokane has such a potential as a city, and in
yeah.
terms of raw talent and people. How is the tech scene actually? Is it growing? Is he kind of studying,
It's
or is it
growing.
still kind of on the still in the shadow? I would say of Seattle and Bellevue.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in the shadow of Seattle and Bellevue,
Yeah,
but it's growing. The thing about Spokane is it's kind of a weird market,
hmm,
um, and that's where networking comes in, right? I think
yeah,
if you're just looking on LinkedIn or other places for jobs in Spokane, it's going to be difficult.
yeah,
Uh, the easiest thing for people to do in this local area is really to network and get to know people, especially if they're already a part of New Camp.
hmm,
Just reaching out and talking to people and letting people see your personality. Yeah, that is huge in Spokane.
yeah. And it's probably the case for any city that is not a big a big
Yeah,
tech city.
yeah,
I'll say that's probably the same in Tacoma, and it's probably the same anywhere. If you're in Fort Worth, I mean, you're not Austin, you're not Dallas, so
yeah,
yeah, you got a network as well.
totally.
Um, that's great. Um, so let's talk about that. So you've been a software developer now. That's your first position.
Hmm.
Um, and now you're getting into your second position at a different
Hmm.
company. Can
Yeah.
you can you share with us how well what was the path to that, and did you find an opportunity? Did someone come to you and say, "Hey, you want to work there"? How was the
Yeah.
interview?
That's funny. Actually, I can't stop plugging New Camp enough. It was 100% all via New Camp,
Oh,
right?
really?
It
Nice.
was really good person named Rocky Kiev, who was a
Oh, you
student of New
Rocky,
Camp.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right.
I have kept in touch with Rocky, and uh, like I said, I was really having some serious imposter syndrome. And he kept saying, "Hey, you need to apply
Oh,
for a
yeah.
job. You need to apply for a job." And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't think so. And, he ended up just saying, "You're going to apply for a job today," and
Oh,
shared
really?
screens. Yeah, yeah,
Pushed
yeah.
you that
You're going to
much.
do this today. Right. Uh, Applied, and I mean, it went smoothly. It was a very unique experience going through the interview process and
Hmm.
selection. And for this particular instance, I had to build a landing page, had to build a real working page, um, and I hadn't
In
had
the
a
office, or was it takeaway home?
takeaway, right?
Takeaway. Okay.
Yeah, and this was like over holidays, so
Oh,
I like had to
yeah.
put family aside and say, "Hey, I don't know you guys right now. I'm busy," and build a quick website and do it in a way that was impressive. And it ended up working out. but it was a very stressful time because I really was doubting my skills. Right,
Yeah.
it was a big jump, but again, it was Rocky and Evan and Brent who really were pushing me, saying, "No, you're ready, and don't doubt yourself. Just let your personality and your skills shine." And I took that jump, and it's been it's been great.
Awesome. Well, tell us about the position that you're in now, actually.
Yeah,
So what do you do on a daily basis? And it's been a year, right,
yeah,
since
yep.
you joined the company.
Yeah, so I'm a front end developer, and we work in WordPress and PHP and Vue, um, and the company has a number of different websites, uh, and we basically were the in-house software company for our parent company. We build all the websites, all the at least on my team, we do all the front end work. So every day is pretty much in code,
Yeah.
either fixing bugs or building new features. It's very organized. So we have a Jira boards, and we're pulling in tasks. It's it's your typical developer kind of environment,
Yeah.
what people would see on any team. However, I would say that the way that we do things is really interactive with each other, which is different from what I was used to before, where you kind of
Yeah.
the developers would kind of lock themselves in a room, and that was it. You never interacted with each
Yeah.
other. This is really team oriented, um, and the cool thing is we have designers who will design mock-ups for us, so we don't have to
Yeah.
do that, which is a godsend.
that was
Yeah,
that was going to be my next question. Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so we'll get mock-ups, like we might get a new site build, and
Yeah.
we'll get all the assets and the way everything is supposed to look, and then it's on us to build it, right? Functionality and everything. So it is challenging and fun at the same time. It's a really great position.
So let me ask, and that sounds like a really cool stuff. So WordPress, PHP backend, and some Vue,
Yep.
um, and you're building a ton of websites that are pushed in production.
Oh
So
yeah.
what has been your worst moment over there? And I'm not asking, worst like culture thing, but like, have you crashed something in production, or I mean,
That's a
what
good.
can people expect when they get in those type of positions? What is the worst that can happen?
Yeah, so that's a funny question. So I'm not a WordPress developer by trade. I pretty much all my WordPress skills and PHP skills I learned, or I'm still learning to date, right?
Yeah.
So I got in just on experience and sheer tenacity, just learning. I've been doing really well, but there was a particular task where I was updating production on a particular site because we do all
Yeah.
our own production deployments. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I moved over all the WordPress files from my local site to the production site and brought the site down
Yeah.
and had a panic. I was like, oh my goodness, right? Uh, got on the horn to a couple people and said, hey, I cannot get this site back up. Not sure, how I should proceed, but it's down. And, we have a really good IT department. So they were able to, bring the site up back based on a backup. But I
Yeah.
had done that, right?
Yeah.
So that was one thing. I think the the biggest struggle, I really wouldn't call it struggle. It's just one of those things is not being a PHP developer, getting in and understanding how PHP
Yeah.
works and things like that, because the web has moved away from PHP a lot, right?
Yeah.
So that's all new territory for me, and every task that involves anything to do with PHP is challenging, but it's still fun.
And so you're blending PHP for server-side rendering, I guess, and
Yeah.
Vue for more client-side rendering.
Yeah. So we all of our sites run a group of forms,
I see.
and we've been switching our forms from basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP to being built in Vue. So we've built our own plugin that runs all of our Vue-based forms, which is
Oh,
really
that's
really awesome.
cool.
Yeah,
So it's a WordPress
plugin.
plugin
Yeah.
built in Vue.
Yep.
We can do crazy stuff with technology those days, right? I
It's
mean, you
awesome.
you can really marry very old, I mean, not very well, yes, very old, but still, I mean, used. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think of maybe one website that's the most used for small and medium business, that's probably WordPress.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think what was it? Just like jQuery, because we use jQuery as well.
Oh
So
yeah,
like jQuery and WordPress, I believe like jQuery alone is 80% of the web, right?
yeah,
And then I can't remember, I think 75% or more of the web is actually WordPress,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I would not be
So
surprised by that.
yeah,
Yeah,
using Vue within that is super awesome.
yeah, yeah. You get a kick out of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
At
yeah,
least
yeah,
you know you have that.
yeah.
That's brilliant. So uh, let's talk about you started as a self-taught,
Mhm.
and here we are, you and I, on YouTube. And I know you. I mean, you've been telling me right before we went live that um, you're starting to watch, and you're actually starting to wonder if you want to produce your own videos on YouTube. And you've been
Yeah,
watching a few influencers, and well, tell me what you have in mind, because I know you shared with me that you were seeing a few things around
yeah,
and being discussed,
yeah. So I've
and you wanted to kind of contribute to that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos, learning of code and things like that, and I've seen an uptick in people talking about, do you need a boot camp,
Hmm.
right? And the trend seems to be a group of people who are influencers who work in the field, um, but they claim that because they're self-taught that you don't need any boot camp, you can do all this on your own. And I've seen a number of them mention New Camp, right? uh, and kind of say, especially during COVID, you're pretty much self-teaching anyway, so you don't need a boot camp.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I've been dabbling in, making my own videos to push back against that notion that you can do everything self-taught, and you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, and you're going to be in the field and all that kind of thing. Because I don't really believe that that's true. Uh, while any type of learning, whether you're physically in a brick and mortar classroom or you're learning online via distance learning like we are in New Camp because of COVID, uh, you still need support, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't come from a technical background, right? Uh, you're gonna run into bugs that you just don't know how to solve. I can't tell you how many of my students, when they're first getting into this, don't understand how to read bugs or errors that you're seeing reported in the console, right? Because for some reason, the people who write the errors in the console are not human, so they
Yeah.
don't speak. They don't speak anybody's language that they understand, right? They write an error and it's like, what in the heck are they telling me? And that's a skill to understand how to
Yeah.
read that, right? And if you're 100% self-taught, you're going to struggle, right? Um, the benefit of going to a boot camp, especially like New Camp, is even though you're doing a lot of self-learning throughout the work, that Saturday workshop where you're sitting with the instructors and you're going through things, and the students, I teach things a little bit different than a lot of instructors. When I teach my boot camp or when I teach my courses, I don't break the students up into groups. I week one, I tell them, hey, you're all a team. So for
Mhm.
now on, you're a team. You all work together. This is a job, and I want you to treat it that way, right?
Yeah.
So there's no breakout rooms where there's a group of you over here and there's a group of you over here. And I'm not going to share my screen. You're going to share your screen, and we're going to code together. And we walk through different challenges. And I ask the students, like, even if I know the answer, I'm not going to give you the answer right off the bat. I want you guys to
Yeah.
discuss it and try to come up with a solution or what you think. And then I'll kind of lean you in the right direction. But I want you to work in that team. So this is the benefit of going to a boot camp where you're not just alone,
Yeah.
totally by yourself with no resources to ask, right? There's the famous things about asking questions on Stack Overflow and seeing how rude people can be, right? New Camp's not like that at
Well,
all.
and you first you have to gain enough confidence to feel like you can ask a question on Stack Overflow.
Yeah,
Because at first, when you start, you read other people's questions and you're like, I don't even know that I can write the question
yeah,
correctly.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't even know what to ask.
Yeah,
Right. And then you're right. I mean, then you ask the question and nobody's gonna answer you because you're missing, the way to ask, which is kind of tough.
yeah, yeah,
Um, no, this is very true. And this is, I mean, you're really describing one of the core elements of the pedagogy that we are trying to bring
mhm,
with New Camp. It's really that support structure uh, that's online, but also very much live.
yeah,
And that's those 4 hours on Saturday are so critical to that. That's where things gel. That's where,
yeah,
you know, you get the instructor to really guide your learning.
Yeah.
Guided learning, it's an actual term, it's a pedagogical term, right?
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're supposed to learn, how you're supposed to learn it. And some people may not need that, but there's actually a lot of stats and research being done. 3% of a population do not need guided learning.
Yeah.
97% of learners actually need guided learning.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you could be successful, but at some point, and you want to realize that as soon as possible, that what you're missing is not, being smart or
Yep.
loving coding. What you're missing is the support.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so seek the support.
Yeah,
No, totally
I
agree.
mean, to piggyback off that, there's a number of things that, when I'm working with students, I'll encourage them to have these discussions amongst themselves, like open up a separate group and have these talks and walk through code together, because that support structure, even student to student, right?
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of students, they know what they're doing, but they're not confident enough. And going to a boot camp and validating, okay, yeah, I'm learning this the right way, having an instructor support you and say, yeah, you're right, or well, why don't you think about it this, or even challenging them, like, yeah, you know it, now let's take it to another level.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging, over self-learning, right? Self-learning, yeah, you might learn and be able to get your, know enough to be dangerous, but to be really effective and understand how the industry works as a whole, you need to have that guidance.
Yeah. Totally. Hey, there's actually let's check the chat. There's been a
Yeah.
few people commenting and sharing their love for you.
Cool.
I'm trying to find actual questions, and I think I saw a few actual questions that we can answer together. Or let me just pull that one, just for this is what people say about you, which is kind of awesome.
Cool.
Okay, let's go to the questions. I saw it's a comment, but it's a really interesting one. Kind of speaks to what we were just talking about. It's intimidating to post on Stack Overflow. You're really putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's that trait. Like, if you don't ask your question right, people may actually comment for not the right reasons. Or
Yeah.
and you actually could, I mean, you could see threads on Stack Overflow, someone asking a question, and then the next 5, elements in the thread are trying to reformulate the question that you asked, and all of a
Yep.
sudden you feel like you're dumb because you
Yeah.
couldn't ask the question in the first place, and you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's very difficult. And I have, so it's funny, I use Stack Overflow every day, but I've only ever asked one question. And after I asked that question the first time and the responses I got, I never asked another question. And this was early on in my dev journey. And a lot of it had to do with, I didn't know how Stack Overflow worked, and even how to find that, oh, the question I'm asking had already been asked, right?
Oh yeah, you get that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
you didn't realize because you could not really clearly realize that was the same question. It wasn't asked the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Another thing about Stack Overflow, and I've been actually a victim of that myself, or I've been dumb enough, I will say. You have to be extremely careful when you find an answer on Stack Overflow to really double check, triple check that solution applies to your context.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is precisely what you're looking for. I'm going to share with you one example that I bumped into myself recently. I was looking for a simple way to chunk arrays into a defined number of chunks.
Mhm.
So there's actually 2 ways of doing that. Either you want a set number of chunks, so split that array in 5 equal sets.
Mhm.
That's one way of doing it. Or you want an equal number of items in each chunk.
Okay.
I want 5 items in every chunk. And the response is completely different depending on which one you want. And I fell into that. Like, I was lazy. I was like looking for, okay, how do I, split an array in chunks? And I picked the wrong solution, the opposite of what I was looking for. So just, something to be careful on Stack Overflow as well. Something that an instructor would have picked up potentially, right? Because he would have really understood what you were trying to do.
Yeah. And I've actually had students come to me with Stack Overflow threads and said, oh, I can do it this way.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I actually have sections a lot of times when students bring up Stack Overflow. We'll go through Stack Overflow and I'll show them how you use Stack Overflow, right? Because a lot of students don't understand the green check mark versus up
Yeah.
votes and down votes and
Yeah.
all of those type of things, right? Even reading that first question very, very thoroughly, like you said, to make sure it applies to the context, because you can get lost in a rabbit hole on Stack Overflow. So yeah, it's an interesting benefit that can really
Yeah.
get people in trouble. Yeah.
So, oh, Nissan, I was gonna bring you on the floor. I don't know if you're still here with us. You turned off your camera. If you want to join the chat, and for everyone listening, we have a Nissan who actually joined our link, and I see that his connection may be bad as well. So anyway, we'll get back to Nissan if he shows his camera again. In the meantime, there's another question. Oh yeah, he dropped off. Okay, so there's a question here. Maybe you can give your answer to that one from Damien. I am a chemical engineer with zero knowledge in the IT space. How will this bootcamp help me get started?
That's a great question. So I've actually had several people who come from engineering backgrounds, whether it be mechanical or electrical, and the good thing about an engineering type degree is a lot of times those degrees help a person think in a code mindset,
Yeah.
right? And what I've found is that people who don't have any IT experience, but they come from that engineering degree, they pick up code really, really well, right? Because they're trained by trade to think differently, which very much, I mean, that's why we call them software engineers. It's engineering. It's just a
Yeah.
different type of engineering, right? So it's just really training your mind to think in a software type of architecture is what I'll call it, right? So I think a boot camp will really help a person get started, because they will give a person who doesn't come from that IT background areas of focus, right?
Mhm.
Which is where a lot of people lack, because software development, web development is huge, right? Do I learn React first? Do I learn JavaScript? Where do I focus? How does a full stack website even come together,
Yeah.
right? And you can get lost in, I don't know where to start, right? A boot camp is really going to focus you on, these are the key things that you're learning, and kind of that very meticulous step-by-step process of building a site from start to finish, and the stack that you're going to be using.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Um, I mean, at the root of it is kind of thinking logically.
Mhm.
It's being interested in science in
Yeah,
general,
yeah,
right? And again, you don't need to have a math degree,
nope,
but
yeah,
but yeah, coming from a scientific background, a logical type of
mhm,
field, will definitely help.
yeah,
There's a question from Code Thin, and you have actually experience with both, so you're
mm.
more. Actually, I wouldn't know what to respond to that one. What do you think between Vue and React? Which one is more beginner friendly?
This is a great question. So I'm partial to React,
Yeah,
just because I'm more familiar with it. I'm getting more into Vue, and I really like Vue. However, I would say, while learning them in a boot camp is the trend, and the way that you're going to want to learn a framework. What I would say for beginners, even like for my boot camp students, right, my new camp students, when they're learning React, a lot of times I tell them, hey, I want you to learn React, but I want you to treat this React course as an intro to React while you're really honing your JavaScript skills.
yeah,
Because if you want to be good at Vue, or you want to be good at React, you have to remember that in reality, those aren't languages of themselves. They're
mhm,
JavaScript. So if you want to be good at those, go back and learn JavaScript really, really well while you're learning Vue or React, right?
yeah,
That's what's going to make you good at either one of those. So whichever you pick is going to be great. I will say, React is super popular. Vue is becoming more and more popular. I mean, they're pretty much number one and number two. But once you learn one, jumping over to another isn't a large leap.
yeah. Oh, have you? So yeah, you've been doing that quite a bit, right? You
Yeah.
can. Is it? What are the parallels you will say between Vue and React? I mean, how quickly can you pick up Vue if you come from a React world, for example?
I think you can pick it up really quickly. They're very similar. Obviously, they're both
Yeah,
component based. The architecture of components is a little bit different. What I would say is, if you're familiar with React and you want to get into Vue, start looking into things like styled components with
yeah,
React. right? Because the way Vue works is they'll add styling into the component, right? So I really think, just like going into styled components and then jumping into Vue, that's a good way to start.
Hey, give me a sec. My kid
Yeah.
is stuck outside. I need to open the door. I'll be
Yeah,
right
no
back,
worries.
folks, everyone.
Yeah, no worries. Live. That's the power of live television or live streaming. Things happen.
I'm back. I heard the ring upstairs and I was like, I hope he's gonna find a way. And then he
Yeah.
came from the back. All good now. All good. Thanks for
Cool.
waiting. Did you see another question here?
Let me see. I'm scrolling. I'm fine with any question.
Yeah.
Let's see. We answered those.
So, well, I don't see more questions. A
Yeah.
lot of enjoyment being with you and seeing you. What's next for you? You say you are about to graduate for
Mhm.
your software development degree. Where do you see yourself next?
Yeah, so I'm going to finish this degree, and I'm immediately going to roll right into an MBA.
Oh, geez.
And because my goal is like, I don't want to code forever. I want to move from coding every day for a living to more of managing or administrative kind of things, right? So I'm going to pursue an MBA with a focus in IT management to try to move from the standard developer role to being somebody who manages developers and things like that. Just further upward mobility, right?
Yeah, awesome.
This is an awesome space to be working in, and so there's a lot of opportunity.
Hey, Justin, thanks for joining us. I'm going to bring you onto the floor and welcome you here to the show. Hello, Justin. How are you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Would you mind introducing yourself?
All right.
Where are you dialing in from?
So I am one of these guys. This guy's a student. Or, point over here. This guy's a student.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Oh,
remember.
that's awesome.
But,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was my teacher back in 2020, and had a really good experience with him.
Oh,
And
2 years ago. See,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was talking about. You've had such an impression on your students. So
That's great.
what can you tell us about Nasir?
well, I was going to ask a question, but
Yeah, go for it.
if that's cool.
Ask.
Nasser, it's cool to see you shifting into PHP because I've done a lot of work with that lately. And just kind of from a professional reference point, would you say that you'd recommend really focusing in on vanilla PHP, or is it better to kind of pick up a bit of vanilla and then move really hardcore into something like Laravel?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think with any language, the vanilla version of the language is the best way to really focus your energy, right? Like I was using React as an example.
Right.
It's really just JavaScript. Laravel is really just PHP with some syntax, some little sugar to it, right?
A whole lot of sugar.
Yeah. So I really think the best way for any student or anybody to become proficient is to learn the original language. So PHP in this case, right? That's going to be your best bet.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What are you doing? So 2 years ago you were at New Camp. What are you doing now, Justin?
So I'm wrapping up yet another degree. I decided to jump in with a community college to kind of round out my experience.
Cool.
You guys really lit the fire under me. I mean, I was studying a bit before on my own.
Yeah.
But working my way through the full stack course was amazing. And then you guys had the cherry on top with the React Native. So that was really, really cool. But I just needed, to round my experience out a little bit. Yeah. And I can't say that decision really added anything. I mean,
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I read your
confidence
posts on
at least
LinkedIn all the time. And
do you feel more confident?
Oh, I feel a lot more confident, but that's because I got thrust, as Master was saying, I was thrust into a lot of very difficult situations where you build something, you break the crap out of it, and then you fix it. And I think that, like Nasser said, is the best way to learn, especially if you're trying to learn Git. Break it, fix it, and everything's good. That's how you learn. Like, oh, don't do that again. But what I really appreciate was just sort of the foundation. And like, if you're looking for a quick transition or something, like New Camp was a really good way to go. There's a lot of places to spend a ton of money. There's a lot of places to spend a ton of money, but I can't say that any of the money that I spent at New Camp was wasted. Actually, it's an amazing value compared to everything else out there, because I've done a lot of research. And I was living overseas for a while, and so came back, kind of transitioning careers and things. And the value is just amazing. You can't beat it. I'm super stoked, and I haven't had the time, but I need to get into it. But you guys are doing that Python course, and I really enjoy and stuff too. So I need to jump into that soon. So in April, I'll be wrapped up with the current degree, and then I'll probably look into supplements. Hopefully I can land a gig, and then, supplement the Python while I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, awesome. Always learning. It's never a bad thing. Well, thank you very much for joining, Justin. I cannot believe we are already at 4 p.m. Pacific. And people are just starting to ask questions. You have a few more minutes, Nasir? And
Absolutely.
Justin, if you want to stick around, happy to. So let's actually go through some of those. I think we kind of touched on that, but it's such an important topic. And maybe, Justin, I don't know if you have your own thoughts on this question. How did you run through your imposter syndrome? Is it over? Do you feel like you're past that point? And do you feel like there was kind of a haha moment in that space as well, where it's kind of a little bit behind you? Or what are your thoughts?
For Justin or for me?
For you, Nasir.
So I would say I'm not quite over it. However, it gets better over time, right? I think one of the way I've dealt with imposter syndrome is realizing that when I'm starting to self-doubt, like I tell my students this all the time, you have to be tenacious. This is my favorite word with being a software developer, is you have to be tenacious, right? So as soon as the doubt starts kicking in and you hear that little voice in your head saying, you shouldn't be here, this isn't your space, you have to be tenacious and say, you know what, I'm going to keep going. And there are so many times where I've been stuck and doubting myself, and I've shut the computer off, went and took a walk, or literally even took a shower, and then came back and I've solved it in my sleep before, right?
Yeah.
And then that solving, after having that bout of imposter syndrome, but saying, oh, no, I'm going to keep going, and then solving it, that is the biggest cure for imposter syndrome, right? Is not to give into it.
How about you, Justin? Do you still experience the imposter syndrome?
Oh, definitely. I did an internship over the summer where we built out an entire React project. It was mostly front end, but we had to write some really complicated stuff, like the first time doing a search engine. Yay! It was intense. Search, sort, filter on a project, and the boss wanted something that was kind of on par with Amazon. So Nasser was always teaching us, don't try to go build Facebook right away. And then, like, my first internship was very
Amazon instead.
Yeah. It was coming. It worked out. It was cool. I learned a ton. I got it done. But there were several times where that sort of panic and fear grips you. And the hard part is knowing whether you're dealing with imposter syndrome or the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is when you think you know something and you're sitting on top of Mount Stupid, and you think you know something, and then you look down over the abyss and you realize how deep the well goes. Mm-hmm. So I always try to maintain a level of humility, because I don't know if I'm dealing with the imposter syndrome or if I'm dealing with the Dunning-Kruger effect at any one time. So if I stay happily humble, then I think it helps me move forward. So it's helped me overcome a lot of challenges.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this perspective, and I think that may help. I believe that you always encounter the imposter syndrome when something new is presented to you that you haven't necessarily experienced. But you also can recognize over the month and the years that you're not experiencing that feeling for things that you were experiencing it for like a year ago. Like, you are able to also recognize what you've learned and what you know how to do. And when you were stressing out before, maybe because, there was a semicolon missing and you were like, well, am I fit for it? Like, those days are gone, right? Like, a semicolon missing, you'll find it in 2 seconds now. And don't you feel like
something more practical, like
right? Yeah.
I hope I don't mispronounce her name, but Mene
Yeah.
was a lot of our like video lectures.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when she was dutifully trying to take us through like array methods. And the first ones were like, okay, got that, got filter, got find. And then she dropped reduce on us. And I thought to myself, what? And then she even had this disclaimer. It was like, oh, reduce. By the way, this is going to blow your mind. Just bear with it. And the first time I was looking, I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? Bah.
Yeah.
But then I've been building this e-commerce site for a friend of mine on like using Gatsby, which is kind of like a framework of React. So a framework of a framework. And like I needed to calculate out some totals and I just needed to bust through an array. And I just popped in reduce. I'm like, oh yeah, reduce, just another day.
Easy.
So I bookmarked, I milestone that moment in my mind. So it's like, I remember like back in 2020 when I was freaking out about this and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing to this. And it was just like, just another method. Woohoo.
Yep. So were you in Bellingham or in Marysville? Justin?
No, I'm in Spokane.
Oh, you're in Spokane.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Mine was the video, was doing the video over there. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no,
Also,
her content's really good, and
from
it's weird with
Spokane.
hers and with Nasser and Evan as well. So
Yeah.
Cool. Good to see Spokane coming in for us. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe one more question. Let's see. Yeah. So God Thing has a question around QA and Blackstone as well. Yeah. Let's pick that. So the general question is, what are your thoughts about starting in QA, transitioning into software development, something that you kind of have done, Nasir. I mean, I don't know if your support role was QA the way people will think about it, but now that you've seen testers, you've seen QA in organizations, how do you see people being able to move from one to the other?
Yeah, so it's funny. My journey from answering phones, giving desktop support or support for the app went from, okay, we're going to give you a job as a developer, and the first thing that we're going to have you do is you're just going to QA the app, right?
Yeah.
We're adding new features. And so for a good portion of the beginning, all I was doing was really QAing the app and even writing like really rudimentary Selenium tests for the app, right?
Oh, you were? Pretty cool. So
Yeah.
You got started with that.
Yeah. And so I moved from there to, okay, now we're going to take on building a website and you're going to be part of that team. And I transitioned that way. So I think while a person, if you're a QA, that's your foot is in the door, right? And that's where you need to start marketing yourself to other departments within the organization that, hey, I really want to be a dev, right? And even volunteering, like, hey, I'm short on QA work, or is there some dev tickets that I can pick up? Is there a way that I can start filling in over here, right? Just marketing yourself within an organization it can help you move from that QA position into a full engineering or development role.
Yeah, and I love what you just shared with us, that when you're doing test automation in Selenium, you are coding. You are being a dev. And so you can definitely present that and kind of, it's a proof point. Hey, I'm coding. I mean, I'm not building the app, but I'm using a framework. I'm creating code that has a very important purpose, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. How about you, Justin? Do you have an experience with QA or any thoughts on that?
No, unfortunately not with QA. Mostly with like the internship we were working through. We had someone kind of doing our analysis for us above us. And that was really good. It was a good experience because we got a chance to learn kind of Git flow and an agile development cycle.
Yeah.
The hard part for me in that process, I think, was learning not to overlap too much, because I'm kind of the helpful kind of guy where it's like, something's broken. I see how to fix it. I want to fix it. But if somebody else has tasked that ticket, then you kind of have to leave it alone. I think we had with the internship, we had a lot of overlap, and it was, we learned a lot, I guess, as an organization, how to kind of manage out the agile framework, because we had the idea in mind, but within the actual development process, there was a lot of overlap. So our QA guy struggled because it was too much overlapping. So we had to figure out how to do the polls, how to merge, making sure that we weren't clashing, creating too many merge conflicts. I resolved a lot of them just because it needed to be done. So yeah, I mean, it's a challenging process learning how to work together as a team, but I think as everybody stays flexible and stays, positive, it'll work out.
The the good aspects of QA is you can be the person saving the day, fixing the bug or identifying the bug before it becomes a catastrophe in a way.
Yeah.
I want to bring, and we'll probably actually wrap up on that, but I want to bring also Blackstone Software point regarding QA, because there is a real aspect of being boxed in,
Mhm.
especially if you're kind of spending too much time perfecting your skills as a QA engineer or QA developer, or however you want to call it. But being pigeonholed is a real deal. It
Mhm.
does happen. You can also think of it as two tracks. You have a software development track and a
Yeah.
QA engineering track. And yeah, if you evolve too much in the QA, it's going to potentially make it harder to move to the other
Yeah.
one. So I think that's a fair point to make.
There,
With that,
let me.
Nasir,
I was
yeah.
going to add one point. If a person really wants to move out of QA into a software dev role, one of the things I would say is start building as many projects to showcase your development work outside of the QA field as you can. Right, build up a portfolio, and then kind of let the QA, as far as marketing yourself, fall to the wayside, and say and market yourself as a developer. I am a
Yeah.
developer, and I'm looking for this job. Make QA a secondary thing.
Yeah. Which, it's kind of sad. I agree with you, but it's kind of sad that you have to
Yeah.
kind of set aside that type of experience because it's still valid. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, I've really, really enjoyed having you on the show, Nasir. Justin,
thank you.
thank you for joining us last minute. It was also great talking to you. Great
Thanks for having me,
overall to
guys.
see
Thanks for the
Spokane.
program.
I thought I would actually maybe take the plane and go visit you guys. Too bad we don't have the in-person workshops over there anymore. It would have been a great opportunity to meet everyone there.
Agreed.
But I may actually do that. I've been thinking about visiting our communities in the US and kind of dropping in and saying hi.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to. Maybe I'll drive your car. I know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good coffee shops here too. So
Yeah.
do that.
Well, thank you again very much. Thank you everyone who attended. I really appreciate. You can, if you're lucky, you can actually be one of Nasir's next students in React. You know that sometimes we get students asking us to move to your class.
I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
We've heard about Nasir. Can I be in Nasir's class?
Wow.
And we're like, oh my God, if we start to say yes to that, we're like, it's not gonna work.
Wow. Well, that's flattering.
But
yeah,
we do get it once in a while.
So
So hey,
follow this guy.
Yeah, a real pleasure. Have a great weekend, everyone, and
too.
see you online. See you on Slack. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.